In today's video, I'm going to be teaching you the secret to winning every single argument. Now, we've all found ourselves in conversations where it felt like the other person wasn't listening to us. Before we knew it, we lost our temper, we lost respect from the other person, and all we ended up with was more problems than we started with. A lot of times, the screaming matches you get into with your girlfriend, with your friends, with your family, just lead to more problems down the road. And they're gonna end up bringing up the fact that you never listen to them, that you don't care about what they have to say, that you're very selfish, blah, blah, blah. But imagine being able to control every single debate that you get into. I am going to walk you through every crucial strategy that you need to confidently and calmly settle every single conflict you get into. And let's hop into it right here with the first strategy. The very first thing that you need to keep in mind when trying to win an argument, ironically, is that you should never try to win an argument. Instead, you have to try to understand the other person and why they feel the way they feel. Even if they're getting into an argument with you over something petty, something small, even something that you may find ridiculous, you have to make sure that you respect their opinion, start off the conversation calmly, and find some common ground to build on. Again, never attempt to prove them wrong. That is not how you win arguments. Instead, you have to try to understand their point of view. That is the first and honestly the most important step in resolving conflicts. And if you don't quite see where they're coming from, just continue to ask questions until either you understand where they're coming from or they realize that their reason for being upset doesn't make much sense. So one of two things is going to happen in this scenario. One, you're either going to ask enough questions to the point where you understand where they're coming from, and then you can confidently and more accurately address the issues they have with you. Or two, you're going to ask them enough questions to the point where they realize that their reasoning for being upset doesn't even make much sense and it just sounds silly, in which case then you flat out just won the argument. And those are the best case scenarios, but if not, then we move on to step 2. Practice active listening by giving the other person your full undivided attention. I really want to make sure you guys understand this because a lot of people don't do a good job of listening. Especially in arguments, you'll be in your head trying to think of the best comeback, the best reasoning, the best thing to say to the other person to get them to fold. But in reality, that is not what you want to do. A lot of people are focused on being good debaters and not good listeners. It is way more important in an argument to be a good listener than a good debater. Really put yourself in their shoes and think, if I were in this situation, would I get upset? And even if you wouldn't get upset, try to understand if they would potentially get upset, knowing their life experiences, knowing what they've went through, knowing what they've told you. Step 3, once you've identified the other person's issues with you, find a solution and help them get there. I'm not telling you to just give in and give the other person whatever they want and whatever they're asking for. In fact, I don't want you to do that. If you do that, the other person will lose respect for you. It might lead to the conflict being solved, but at the same time, the person is just gonna think, oh, this guy is gonna give me whatever I want if I just complain or yell at him or whatever. Compromising, meeting in the middle, make sure that you maintain a good relationship with this person and that you both get what you want. Step 4, control your emotions. Now, emotions are probably running high in an argument, especially if things get heated, but you wanna make sure you control yourself. Don't yell, don't get aggressive, don't start shouting at them to prove a point, don't talk louder than them because you think you're more right than them. Now, you don't wanna be aggressive, but you do wanna be assertive. Nobody wants to side with someone that's hostile and yelling at them, even if they're 100% right. As a matter of fact, they will do their very best to argue with you, no matter how right you are, just because you're yelling at them and being aggressive with them. They will literally continue to argue with you just to spite you because they feel like you're being disrespectful and not listening to anything that they have to say. A good tip to keep in mind to avoid being too aggressive is to never demand anything from them. You want to suggest things to them. You kind of want to lead them to your conclusion as opposed to telling them what they should do. Really, your entire demeanor is super important when it comes to winning arguments, because if you act like you're not that emotionally invested in the argument and it doesn't bother you that much, the other person will kind of meet you at that level. Even if the problem is really big, if you're calm about it and trying to actively solve the issue as opposed to telling the other person they're wrong, the other person will be right there with you. They'll realize they look bad when they're raising their voice 20 decibels higher than you are. Step number 5. A lot of people don't want to do this. A lot of people won't want to do this. A lot of people have too much pride to do this, but it's this. If you've made a mistake, admit to it. If while arguing with this person, you realize that you did in fact do something wrong, apologize for it sincerely, and vice versa. If the other person realizes that they did something wrong to you, forgive them. Don't hold it over their head. Don't try to do the, oh, but you did this to me, but you did that last week. Don't do any of that. Now, like I said, this is a lot easier said than done, because many people have too much pride, especially in a heated argument, to one, not only admit that they're wrong, but even realize that they did something wrong. This is where going back to point number 4 is very, very important. Being able to control your emotions. If you can control your emotions, this should not be an issue for you. The only reason that people ever fail to admit their wrongdoings is because they're so pent up with anger, aggression, and resentment towards the other person about the situation, that even if they realize in the back of their mind, that probably wasn't the best thing that I did there, they won't say it because they don't want to concede defeat. Winning an argument actually has very little to do with who is right and wrong. Winning an argument comes down to who carries themselves best in this situation. And step number 6, which is an absolute last resort, walk away. If you're practicing all the strategies we talked about previously, you're remaining calm, you're not raising your voice, you're trying to understand the other person, you're even conceding to their points and willing to apologize for stuff that you did, but this person is still acting hostile, they're still yelling at you, they're not willing to compromise, then at that point, your best course of action is to walk away. Respectfully walk away, but walk away. Sometimes there's literally nothing more you can do in an argument to have the other person see your point of view or have the other person come down a notch from their aggression level. The only thing you can possibly do is gift them with your absence. If you practice silence, now the other person has to hear themselves and go over all the hurtful things they said to you in their head, because you're not giving them any more information to go off of. You're not feeding into this hostile environment. But like I said, we want to make sure we walk away respectfully. You don't just want to get up in the middle of a conversation, in the middle of them talking, and walk away from them. That's not a respectful way to do it. You want to emphasize that you value your relationship with this person, but that they need to let their emotions settle down a little bit before you get back into it. Just tell them, hey, I value my relationship with you and I want to address this at a later point, but right now I think we just need time to think about the things we said already. Usually that'll get the job done, but if not, you can make an excuse like, oh, I forgot I have this errand to run. Oh my God, I have this emergency, whatever. I know it's maybe not the best thing to do, but there are situations where the other person will just not let you walk away, especially in situations where it's family or situations where you're with a partner. It sounds kind of messed up, but that's what you got to do. Go on a drive. Maybe you got to think about some things and let them think about some things. That was the 5 steps you need to know in order to win every argument. If you found this video helpful, leave me a thumbs up. Drop me a sub. If you want to see more content like this, let me know in the comment section down below. If there's anything that I can help you with, let me know. I feel like arguments is one of the things I'm the best at in life. I'm not great at a lot of stuff. I'm still working on getting better at a lot of things, but I can confidently say that I've had little to no conflicts in my life that have just spiraled out of control. If my friends are watching this, they can probably vouch for me in the comment section down below, but I've never gotten to a point where I've held resentment against my friends or close ones to the point where we don't talk for days, and it's because I practice things like actively listening and admitting when I'm wrong. Even if the other person brings more facts, more statistics, more reasoning to back up their claims, they can still lose the argument just because they look bad. So make sure to keep that in mind. Everything is about how you are perceived and how you carry yourself as opposed to what you're saying. I'm sure you've heard the saying, it's not about what you say, it's about how you say it. And that couldn't be more true for an argument. Thanks for watching, and I'll see y'all in the next one.